sing. Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Do it again. Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira. Let us sing one more. Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira, Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Second part. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Let's try that together. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Back to the top. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Come, let us sing. Come, let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Hava Nashira. Let us sing.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So nice to see all of you this evening in our tent. If this is your first time in the tent or at Temple Emanuel, welcome. We're so happy to have you. I am Rabbi Emily Hyatt. This is Steve Brodsky, our Cantorial Soloist and Musical Director. We make fun of Rabbi Black for never getting his title right, so it's really fun to say it correctly every time. So thank you for appreciating that. We are so thrilled to be here. I felt the drizzle a couple of, and Ken, and
yes,
there's Ken.
let's introduce
Ken, I haven't
Ken
introduced you, it's so
Mervine,
wrong.
our accompanist extraordinaire.
And Ken, accompanist extraordinaire. That is his official title. Amazing. Sorry, Ken, thank you. Forgot what I was saying. We're in the tent.
Let's welcome everyone.
We're going to welcome everyone.
On the
Thank
stream.
you. Everybody turn around. Look at that camera right there. You see it on the table. Wave hi. Say Shabbat Shalom. So if you are joining us in person tonight, a quick announcement. Should there be crazy inclement weather that we are not expecting this evening, just a quick update were there to be emergency or weather, we would all go in the Grape Street glass doors and wait for further instructions. There's a lot of cords, cables, and stairs through that sanctuary door. So if there's an emergency, we're going to go that way, not that way. We have a lot of beautiful songs, singing, prayers, learning to do this evening. We're very excited to begin our service. And so it is my great pleasure to call up to help us light our candles and welcome in Shabbat the Goldman family, because we are celebrating Colin becoming a bar mitzvah tomorrow morning. And so Colin, Doug, Sadra, and Bryce, come on up.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Mazel tov, you guys. We're so excited to celebrate with you and your whole family. Welcome to all of the Goldman Bar Mitzvah clan that's here. And we'll see you in a little bit. We're going to have Colin come back up later, but we'll check you in a bit. And with that, we are going to welcome in Shabbat. We begin with a reading. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. And as I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life.
We have a theme developing here tonight. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. One more time. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Mizmor shir b'yom HaShabbat. Mizmor shir b'yom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'zamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'zamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir b'yom HaShabbat. Mizmor shir b'yom HaShabbat. It's good to give thanks, to give praise, and sing songs to your name, Holy One. It's good to give thanks, to give praise, and sing songs to your name, Holy One. Mizmor shir b'yom HaShabbat. Mizmor shir b'yom HaShabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat. Come, let us sing a song of Shabbat.
We are going to do a lot of inviting this evening. We have a number of prayers that we say every Shabbat where we invite in Shabbat. In a moment, we'll sing the words of Lecha Dodi, and we say, come, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, come and meet the Shabbat bride. Come and greet Shabbat. And then we will sing the words of the Baruch Hu, where we invite each other and God to prayer. And so why so much inviting tonight? Why so much calling out to each other? Because we're still not over. How amazing it is to pray together, to be together, to sing together, to reach out to our community that is still far away. We have to invite each other into this moment, to this space, to this community, because it's important, because it means something, and because we're not going to forget how grateful we are. Let's welcome in Shabbat with Lecha Dodi.
Ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat tekabela. Ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat tekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Ishmi'anu el hamiyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. V'shemo l'tiferet v'litilah. Ya la la ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat mekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. Ki hi mekor habracha. Meirosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Ya la la ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat tekabela. Hitoreri. Hitoreri. Ki ba'orech u'bi'ori. Uri, uri. Shir daveri. Kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Ya la la ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat mekabela. I invite you to rise as you are able, either physically or spiritually. And we face the entrance to our prayer space tonight, whether it's here in the tent or in your own home, wherever you feel that you should turn to welcome the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam besimcha, u'tzola, toch emunei, am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Ya la la, ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat tekabela. Ya la 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 lecha dodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat tekabela.
Hu, our call to worship.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love.
We read responsively. The love that echoes love, that whispers love, that breathes love into the quiet stillness of evening is leading you toward light, toward understanding, toward God. Together, for love is the pulse of holiness, the beating heart of radiance and wonder, the rhythm of creation, the energy of blessing, the starburst of the divine. The love that echoes in your heart resonates eternal with all beings, with all souls, with the wisdom of the ages and the wisdom of the earth. Yes, love is the pulse of holiness. Let it flow through you. Let your countenance shine majesty from the core of your being to the edge of the universe, to fill the world with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. Open up our eyes. Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. You may be seated. And we join together in chanting Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha ve'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
The Israelites walked into the Reed Sea 1 foot at a time. What were they thinking about as the water rose up their legs, chilling their hearts, advancing toward their open mouths? Together, we continue to walk here, now, 1 foot at a time, on our better days forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning. Somehow, I don't go under. The person to my right holds me up. Something I cannot see holds him up. Blessed is the source of help, so often unexpected. I step forward, the sea is vast. Blessed are you, gracious one, for your miracles that greet us every day.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osef eleh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, a wall and the rivers a bridge to freedom, freedom. But we shall overcome one freedom, freedom. But we shall overcome one day. We shall overcome one day.
Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'ha'amitenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Amen.
There is a chain of both unimaginable delicacy and infinite strength bound 13 times from head to heart to hands to you. It stretches further back than time until it reaches those who first cried out your name. I see them in the mirror, hear their voices in the night, feel their joy, and taste what they found bitter as if it were iron on my tongue. Together we are whole. Together we remember, and so we sing your praises.
Adonai, Svatai, Tita. Adonai, Svatai, Tita. Ufiagi, Tehilatecha, Ufiagi. Tehilatecha. Adonai, Svatai.
We rise as we are able for tefillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'koneh hakol V'zocher chasei avot ve'imahot U'mevi ge'ula livnei v'neihem L'ma'an shemo be'ahava Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah Ata gibor le'olam Adonai Mechaye hakol ata rav lehoshia Morid hatal Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim v'rofech olim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Michamocha ba'al gevurot Umido melach Melech memit umechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye hakol Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh Ukedoshim b'chol yom yehallelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. We take a moment now to say prayers of healing. Those in our world, in our own lives, who are in need of our prayers and our thoughts and our healing energy this evening. And so, as always, there are 2 verses in this prayer, and in between them, we will read a list of names, those in our congregation that we know of that are in need of healing, and we'll invite you to add any names that you have as well. Zachary Hoffman, David Karner, David Lustig, David Goldenberg, Stuart Myers, Catherine Plus, Jean Silber, Scott Englander, Stacy Hoffman, Corey Franklin, Brian John Miller, Phyllis Schulman, Eric Dellenbach, Becky Mitchell, Samuel Ryder, Jeffrey Karras, Hal Malin, Sandra Cook, Jim Estubby, James Tepper, Cheryl Lunning, Debbie Levy, Donald Gross, Christina Clark, Raymond Bell, Shanti Hazan, Howard Rosenberg, Deborah Olenikoff, Alex Busnovetsky, Ellie Greenberg, Lori Goldman, Jamie Eidelberg, Larry Ambrose, Mike Kabuti, Laura Culver, Sylvia Goodman, Jerry Luckton, Elaine Wolf, Cindy Friedland, Josh Hepner, Jared Siegel, and Ernie Stone. I invite you to say any names that you are thinking of this evening out loud or in your heart. If you're at home and you're watching, say those names out loud, type them in on Facebook, hold them in your heart. We continue to pray for the healing of all those that are impacted by this ongoing pandemic, and we certainly pray for all of those who are missing, who are hurting, who are wishing that they knew where their loved ones are in Surfside, Florida. And we say, Baruch atah Adonai makor harefuah, blessed are you, Adonai, the source of all healing.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
We take a moment now for silent prayer. And as always, we come back together in just a moment with a prayer for peace. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Really good job clapping on the 2 and the 4. I'm so proud of you. Oseh shalom.
Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu.
There are so many things that I will do before I can confidently clap on the 2 and the 4.
You did great.
Thanks. Of all of the professional responsibilities I have, that one makes me the most nervous. Let that just sit with you for a second. So we're going to take a minute and talk about our Torah portion tonight and learn a little bit about what's happening right now in the weekly Torah continuum. And we're in a weird place in the Torah right now because last week there was a talking donkey, and that is hard to come back from. And so the beginning of this parsha starts out sort of abruptly. We're in Pinchas, Parashat Pinchas. We're about to get to the book of Deuteronomy. We're making progress through, and yet there is some things that are going on right now. And this is sort of an underappreciated part of the Torah because there's like big things that happen in the rest of the Torah, the creation, and then there's some people, and then we go to Egypt, and then we make it out of Egypt, and then we wander in the desert, and we just sort of lump that into this big, we wander. And then we're there for a long time, and then we get to Israel, and it's great. But the wandering has all of these sort of strange moments and stories and events that happen. And so here's what happens at the beginning of Parashat Pinchas. We're actually going to start a little bit into last week's Parsha because the story is split in half, which is weird. So here's what's happening. The Israelites are wandering through the desert, and Israel is staying in this certain place, and the people, they profane themselves. Earmuffs. The translation of the actual text says they profane themselves, the Israelite people profane themselves by whoring with Moabite women. Sorry, Bryce. I don't really know what we're supposed to do with that, but it's not good. It's terrible. And not only that, the Moabite women invite the people to the sacrifices that they're giving to their God, not our God. And the people partake of them, and they worship the other God, and it is not good, and our God gets very, very mad. So what happens? God says to Moses, take all of these ringleaders who have been spending their time doing the thing that we're not going to say that word again, and praying to this other God, and impale them before the Lord. We don't talk about this, right? This is news to all of you that we're going to impale people so that God's wrath may turn away from Israel. It's big and a little scary and a little bit angry God here. And just as they're about to do that, one of the Israelites comes and brings a Midianite woman over to his companions in the sight of Moses and of the whole Israelite community who were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Pinchas, who is the hero of our story, he is the son of Eleazar, and Eleazar is the son of Aaron, and Aaron is the high priest brother of Moses. When Pinchas, Aaron's grandson, sees this, he leaves the group of people, he takes a spear in his hand, follows the Israelite into the chamber, and stabs them both. The Israelite and the woman through the belly, this is what the text says, and then the plague against the Israelites was checked because God's anger had caused a plague, and people were dying. And Pinchas's actions stop the plague. That's the big part of the story that's important to us. Pinchas takes justice into his own hands, and it ends the plague. And the last sentence of Balak, the previous Torah portion, says, those who died of the plague numbered 24,000. And so the Parsha of Pinchas begins this week by telling us that Pinchas has done this amazing thing, and because of that, God didn't wipe out the Israelite people, and God, in fact, gives Pinchas a pact of friendship, which we don't see anybody else ever get in the Torah. It's an individual pact of friendship between Pinchas and God. It's a pact for him and all of his descendants that are in the priesthood, because he took impassioned action for his God, and he has made expiation. He has fixed this. He has atoned for this and made it right for the Israelites. What a story. And it just sort of hides there in this wandering that we don't talk about all that much. And there's a thing that happens later in the Parsha of Pinchas that we talk a lot about more, which is that the daughters of a guy named Tzlafchad dies, and he has no sons, and his daughters petition to inherit his property, and God approves it. And it's this huge moment. And so, of course, Reform Jews are like, let's talk about the daughters of Tzlafchad, and nobody talks about Pinchas, because women being granted the right to inherit property is more in line with our values than taking vengeance ourselves, stabbing people through the belly, getting a pact of friendship with God, and then ending a story. It's a lot to absorb. Here are some things about it that I think are really interesting. Number one, the people are in trouble, and so there's a plague. We are not going to go down that theological road today because we're not. Pinchas has some sort of redemptive quality here. He changes the story. He changes what's going to happen. He changes God's mind, which is always fascinating. And then this thing happens in between the two stories in Pinchas. So the story about Pinchas ends, and we're about to get to the part where we talk about the daughters of Tzlafchad. And what happens? Shocking. Another census. If you've been following along in the weekly saga, this is like the third or fourth census we've taken in the book of Numbers. We do a lot of census taking. A lot of census taking. We count the people all the time. And so the question is obviously asked, did we not just count the people? Why do we have to count them again? And Rashi, our most famous commentator, says there was a plague. The plague was over. So they had to take stock and see who was still there and see what the damage had been. And the word for take a census, the phrase for take a census always in the Torah is se'u et rosh, lift up their heads, right? See their faces and know who we lost and who we still have. This is what happens when tragedy strikes. Even though this tragedy is so strange, this plague that happens is so strange, it ends. And our commentators even tell us that the three words that happen in Pinchas, and the plague ended, is actually its own chapter. It's the first three words of the Parsha, and then there's a symbol in the Torah that tells us that there's a break. There's a break in the text before we move on, and the plague ended. Knowing that it's over with a symbol, with a well-known symbol. What a thing to think about. A declarative statement in the Torah that this plague is over and we're moving on, so let's take stock and let's see what we've got. Which feels a little bit like where we are right now, except for without the symbol and without the clear sign and without having any idea whether or not we are seeing the end of a pandemic or not. The news is confusing. It feels like we're here. Many of us not wearing masks. Most of us hopefully vaccinated, except for those who can't be yet. And it's not over. There's no clear sign. There's no clear symbol. And so we are sort of living in a liminal space here, in the in-between. And I'll tell you also, I'm thinking a lot about Surfside in Miami. I lived in Miami for a year. Do you know how when you have a close but not at all very close connection to something that happens and it just feels so personal even though it's not personal? That's where I'm at. I lived in Miami. I know people who live in that building or lived in that building. I don't know anybody that is missing, but I can't stop watching. I can't stop waiting and hoping that people are going to be, found. And it feels like the exact same sort of liminal space. There's no clear sign. There's no letter at the end of the line that says, and the situation was over. Break, full stop, new paragraph, and so we had to count the people and find out who was left. We don't have it. We don't have that kind of break, that kind of symbol, that kind of clarity. And so we are just waiting. The Torah doesn't give us very much information about Jewish ritual. So we rely on these long codes of law that have evolved over the last 2,000 years to teach us how we're supposed to react in situations like this. And so our codes of law about death and burial and mourning actually teach us in this moment that grief begins when hope ends. Grief begins when hope ends. What a gut-wrenching statement in our tradition. That exactly in this situation, if someone is missing and you are looking for them and you cannot find them, you begin to grieve, because in Jewish tradition, we don't begin the mourning process until we have buried a body. And if you don't have a body to bury, how do you know what you're supposed to do? So you are allowed to start grieving, to start mourning when your hope that you will find that body ends. Which is a really hard place to be, because when does hope end? When do we give up our hope? And I don't know. I think we are getting close in Surfside, but I don't know if we're there yet, and nobody's made a declarative statement yet, and so we are liminal. There is no paragraph break. There is no clear sign at the end of the text. But there is something else in the story of Pinchas that we have to look at, that we have to learn from. This story of Pinchas, even though we never talk about it, is so actually enormous in our text that it gets told again in the book of Psalms. And so if you go to Psalm 106, verse 30, it tells us the story of Pinchas, that all of these things happened. And what it says is, in the line, Pinchas stepped forward and intervened, and the plague ceased. That's how the story is told. But the word intervened that is used is a really surprising one, and not one that I would have translated, though I do trust the Jewish Publication Society very much. I would not have translated it as intervened, because the word is ve'falel. Ve'ya'amod Pinchas ve'falel. And the plague ceased. Pinchas stood up and he falel, which comes from the same word as palal, which is the same word as lehit palel, tefillah. We just stood up and did that. Palal means to pray. Palal, let's go. Palal means to pray. Tefillah is prayer. And so what does it mean that Pinchas ve'falal, that he stood up and he prayed? And so we look deeper into the meaning of this word, and it turns out that it is used in 3 different ways in Tanakh, in our Bible, to mean 3 different things. The first it's used is to mean to pray, just like we know it most often. The second way that it's used, which is probably what it's being used for here, is that justice was executed, that we performed justice. And that is what Pinchas did when he was stabbing people. He performed justice. He took it into his own hands. And so Pinchas intervened. He did justice. But there's a third way. If we look in the Mishnah, one of our other codes of law, there's a word, tofel, which has the same letters, and it means to attach, to join, to bind. It's even used sometimes in Hebrew when we're talking about attaching tent poles to tent stakes. To attach, to root something in something else. So Pinchas intervened, And what was the point of the intervening? That the people were scattering, that they were losing the connection to each other, that they were praying to other gods and being with all kinds of things that they shouldn't have been with, and they were falling apart. And so Pinchas intervened, and he bound them together. He attached them together. He brought them together, and he staked, okay, I won't go, and he brought them, I didn't even mean that was so unintentional. He brought them together, and like this tent is solid and sturdy, and this is now the third time I've been in here in the rain and the wind, and it goes nowhere because it is so rooted here. We're a rooted in each other community. We're a people that is bound together. So what did Pinchas do? He brought the people back together. He made them back into a community. And the plague ceased. And that is what happens right now, even though we're in this liminal space in Surfside. If you are at all connected to the community in Miami, they are bound together in this moment, in their grief and in their worry and in their raising money and taking care of people and reaching out. They are so bound together. And so too are we. The first opportunity we have to be together, to pray together, to sing together, to be a community, we bind together, and that is how you end what's hard. We don't have control over the plague ending. We don't have control over what happens in Miami. We don't have control over so much when it comes to the beginning and the middle and the end of this pandemic that we are in, but we do have control over ourselves, over our actions, over our taking care of each other, over our binding together, over our being together, over our looking out for one another. And that is vefalel. That is what ended a hard moment that we read about in Torah. What ended it was remembering that we're in it together, that we're in it for each other, and that we can't ever lose that. And so, our job tonight, as we prepare as usual in the last year and a half to hold a million different things, to hold in our experiences this weekend, that it's the 4th of July and that we got to make sure our dogs are okay when the fireworks are going off, and we got to hold that there are still people missing in Miami, and we got to hold that people are going on vacation and starting to venture out and reclaim their freedom in their lives, and we got to hold that there are people who are not free, and we got to hold that so many of us are vaccinated, and we got to hold that there's so many that can't be or don't have access in other countries, and so we just hold it all. And it's the complexity of it and the compassion for that and the compassion for each other that tofel binds us together. And that is what brings us from a hard moment to a moment where we can let some of it go and where we can se'u et rosh, lift up our heads just like they do in this parsha and count who remains, who is here, who we have to take care of. And continue to build our community, to build our world into a better place where we have the opportunity to pray, where we have the opportunity to build justice, and where we have the opportunity to be together and to take care of each other. That is how it ceases. Shabbat shalom.
We begin. Yesher koach.
Thank you.
Amazing. You're brilliant.
Thanks.
Isn't she brilliant? We will begin to conclude our service. I invite you to rise as you are able, and we join together in Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol. Vateit gedula liotzer bereshit shelo asanu kigoye haratzot velo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
You may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And on this Shabbat, we are remembering all those that we have lost in the last 30 days. Florence Barretts, Officer Gordon Beasley, Fritz Friedland, John Hurley, Meyer Jim Miller, Arlene Rabe, Walter Weinberg, Charles Zandel. And we add to that list those who are on our Kaddish list for whom we are observing a Yortzeit this Shabbat, the anniversary of a passing. Leon Alexander, Maxine Ansman, Felix Baer, Marcus D. Barnett, Will Bloom, Maureen Schwader Borwick, Bonnie Bodak, Morton L. Boxer, Elaine F. Bromberg, Elaine Bromberg, Helen Hilda Brook, Matilda Brown, David Kahn, David Charney, Willard Cajodas, Lily S. Citron, Rachel Monis Cohen, Samuel Cohen, Milton Kahn, June Dr. Davis, Julius Deutsch, Moses Frank, Kate Freed, Mary Freed, Samuel Friedman, Aaron Friedman, Dolores H. Furman, Albert Golin, Harold L. Goodman, Wallace A. Greenbaum, Hattie W. Guggenheim, Harold Joseph Hepner, Jack Jacobs, Ruth Kolker, Jeff Krasnow, Miriam Sissy Lackner, Matil Lankin, William Lasky, Rose K. Lieb, Norman Levin, Maxine Levin, Helen May Levine, Adele A. Levy, Dr. Robert Levy, Barbara Levy, Lawrence H. Lieberman, Doris Rosen Quartz Light, Nina Light, Jack M. Lohman, Albert Marcus, Amelie Marcus, Bernice Marks, Stephen Mayer, Lawrence Meskin, Sherry Ray O'Linner, Ludwig Oppenheimer, Sophie Wilson Pomerantz, Jack Platt, Milton Pratt, Samuel Price, Jerome E. Reichart, William B. Rifkin, Dr. Arthur H. Robbins, Rita Rosenblum, Max Rubin, Dennis Sari, Fern Sandler, Abraham Sands, Riva Schreiberg, Robert C. Shapiro, Joseph Sheroff, Rachel Kobe Schwader, Ida Sigmund, Claudia Ambrose Slater, Harriet Rosenzweig Solomon, Anna Spiegel, Norman B. Spitzer, Joan Noni Strauss, Rose Todorovsky, Marguerite G. Wexler, Simon Wygod, Edna Keen Zivin, and Fred Zahn. And we add 10 more names, 10 from the city of Kolin, for whom our Kolin chapel is dedicated, who perished in the Holocaust. Berta Brunarova, Alois Budlovsky, Ivan Dekmar, Ottilie Dekmarova, Anna Diamant, Yosef Diamant, Karel Diamant, Hugo Eckstein, Yuri Eckstein, and Julius Eckstein. And I ask you if you have any other names that you would like to add, those that you are thinking of and mourning for on this Shabbat. If you're watching at home, type in those names, say them out loud so we can hold them with you. If you are in the first 30 days of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise as you are able. And if you're in the first year of mourning a loved one, I invite you to rise as you are able. And if this Shabbat marks for you the Yortzeit or the anniversary of a passing of a loved one, I invite you to rise as you are able. And now, as is our tradition here, we all rise together as we can and stand with you as we join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgarash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yimeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam le'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit ale, v'yit halal, shemei kudesha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say amen.
So long as we live, they too shall live. They are now a part of us. They are now a part of us. They are now a part of us. As we remember, we remember, we remember.
A couple of quick announcements before we conclude our service. First of all, Shabbat continues as usual tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. We will have Torah study with the one and only Steve Brodsky. It will be in the chapel if you registered to come in person. If you want to come in person to Torah study, there are still a few spots open, so feel free to register or talk to us. It is also available on Zoom. It is also available on Facebook and the website. So there are about 1 million ways to watch Steve teach Torah study tomorrow. Don't miss it. At 11 o'clock, the community service with myself and Steve in the chapel. Same thing goes, but no Zoom. You can come in person or you can watch online. Also happening tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, Colin Goldman is becoming a bar mitzvah. He's so excited, he can barely control himself. We're very excited to celebrate with his whole family. If you are coming in person with the family, that is in the tent. And if you are watching the bar mitzvah online, it will be on channel 2 of our website or the Temple Emanuel Denver B'nai Mitzvah Facebook page. A couple of things that are coming up. A series this summer, because we are funny, called Tent Talks. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you want to try it again? We're having a series this summer called Tent Talks. Well done. That was much better. So here's what's happening. July 13th, we will be having Scott Levin, who is the executive director of the Rocky Mountain ADL, Anti-Defamation League, on July 13th. On July 20th, Reverend Amanda Henderson, and on July 27th, Cheryl Glubach, talking about being an anti-racist congregation. So lots of amazing things coming up in the tent on Tuesdays at 7. That's when those happen. And then in August, Tent Talks switch to the Tent Talks of Elul because the high holidays are imminent. And so the Tuesdays in August will be the 4 of us clergy talking about preparing ourselves for the high holidays, 7 o'clock in the tent, and more information is going to come with that later, but starting in August, that will be Tuesdays at 7 in the tent with clergy. You guys should have gotten a high holiday email yesterday that went out. It has a lot of information. Please read it carefully. We know it's a lot. Spend some time, take it with your coffee, print it out, make some notes, make sure that you're absorbing it all. If you have questions, please let us know. We will continue to send out more information on a regular basis through now and the high holidays. And that's about it. register for in-person experiences, you all know that because you're here and you registered. And we will continue to be together in the tent throughout the summer. What did I miss?
I think that's it.
I think that's it. So Colin, come on up here and let's do kiddush, do kiddush, and sanctify this Shabbat with juice.
Juice this week. Definitely juice. I double,
Come right over
triple
here.
checked. Come on over here. I
right here,
double,
Steve.
triple checked that it is not wine. It is definitely juice. Okay? You ready? Yep. Sing with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu really high Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Oh yeah, definitely grape juice.
Awesome.
Thank you, Colin. Listen, you can stay here and help us do hamotzi.
You want to pull it off with a great flourish? You have to
off?
Go. Woo! It's not so beautiful, but it's challah.
Look at the one on the screen. It's
There
way
you go.
more beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. All right, take a little bit of that. Yeah, you can share that with only your immediate family. Listen, get a good night's sleep. You got a big day tomorrow. And don't forget to eat breakfast, okay? Very important. We're going to conclude tonight because it is the weekend of Independence Day, the 4th of July. You know, it's one of those holidays that sometimes if we don't stop and think about what it really is all about, we forget that we are celebrating the founding of our nation based on freedom and liberty and justice for all and all these wonderful, amazing principles that maybe some of us have forgotten about a little bit in recent times. So let's take a moment to just think about that, and with this closing song that's sort of become an anthem for us during the pandemic, to remember that when we come together in community, we bring hope, we bring healing, we bring peace, and we bring blessing. There is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is blessing, there is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is blessing. When the waters are wide and you cannot reach the other side, should your courage run dry, there is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is blessing, there is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is blessing. When you try to endure, when the future's unsure, believe there's something more. There is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is
יש רפואה, יש שלום ויש ברכה. יש תקווה, יש רפואה, יש שלום ויש ברכה. There is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is blessing, there is hope, there is healing, there is peace, there is blessing, there is hope, there is healing, there is peace, and there is blessing, there is hope, there is healing, there is peace, and there is blessing.
Yehi ratzonu milfanecha. May it be your will, God, that we continue to be a people, a community, a group, a family that is bound together when we pray, because we fight for justice and we work for that to happen. Let us, no matter how far we get from each other, always remember to come back and to be bound to each other, to be rooted in this space and in this community and in this place for the betterment of our world. And so we ask your blessing, God. Tatzidenu l'shalom. Help our steps be steps of peace. Tadrichenu l'shalom. Let our paths be paths of peace. And we say together, Amen and Shabbat Shalom. Everybody turn around and look at the camera and wave and say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.